They say dogs experience the world differently from humans. Their senses of smell and hearing are far better than ours. But a recent video has people wondering if these superpowers go far beyond their noses and ears.
On a sweltering July day in 2020, UK residents Meg Oxtby and Jeff Parlett are on a hike with their trio of Hungarian Vizslas, unaware of what they're about to witness.
We were walking along, just having a chat like we normally do, and then we noticed that the dogs were not moving.
At first, this looks like a photograph, but keep watching. The camera starts moving, and yet the dogs all appear to be frozen in their tracks.
We couldn't believe it. You could see the leaves moving and all the bushes, but the dogs were completely still.
I'm telling you, we are not freezing or slowing down this video. You can tell by the shrubbery right here that it's moving in the wind. Now check out how this dog has his leg raised and tail curled. And this other dog is frozen in mid-step. Look, it seems impossible to maintain balance like that.
The three Vizslas stay in that position for 4 whole minutes before resuming their normal dog activity.
We were completely gobsmacked.
Ancient cultures from the Greeks to the Romans to Koreans all have myths about dogs having supernatural ability. The Mayans believed that dogs, known for being great swimmers, swam the souls of the dead across a shadowy lake to the afterlife. Forensic investigator Chase Klotsky wonders if something like that is at work here.
Are there, like, forces somehow making them stop like that? It seems like a theory is that dogs have a spiritual side almost. They sense things like earthquakes, illness, even death sometimes.
Recent studies have explored whether dogs have some sort of sixth sense to communicate telepathically. Meg and Jeff concur. Their dogs seem to have some kind of canine ESP.
They knew what they were all doing and they knew how long to stay still for. So it's just amazing how they can communicate without actually speaking. So that side of it is kind of magical, really.
Ugh, that was me trying to freeze for just 5 seconds. It's impossible, I'm too twitchy. So forget about 4 whole minutes. It's clear these dogs can do some amazing things, right? But can they really freeze themselves in mid-step? Let's take the video to our experts.
Zoologist Roxy Furman considers whether a supernatural force may have terrified the dogs into a form of paralysis.
Dogs definitely do freeze when they're afraid, so there could be something that's made them scared, but there's nothing else in their body language that indicates fear. Their ears are up, their tail's up. Vizslas are hunting dogs, but I don't think that they can be that still for the entire duration of a 4-minute video without kind of any movement. It looks like it's been edited in some way to me.
Compare this other video of hunting Vizslas with Meg and Jeff's. You can see these other dogs don't maintain their posture as well or as long. So maybe Roxy's right. Meg and Jeff's dog video can't be real.
So there are apps that can be downloaded on these mobile devices that can animate certain areas of a picture while preserving other areas frozen in time. Although these apps can deceive a viewer, we found no evidence to support that this file was manipulated or slowed down or frozen in any way.
So this is, in fact, real. Still, biology professor Floyd Hayes believes this is just the product of centuries of breeding.
This is a behavior that is selectively bred for in several breeds of dogs, although it is reinforced in dogs by training. In fact, they actually can be trained to lift a paw above the ground when they are pointing.
Hayes may be onto something here. At the end of the video, we do see the dogs unfreeze as soon as a bird flies away. But here's the catch. Meg and Jeff say they have never trained their dogs to behave like this.
We teach them, sit and stay, but this was something on a completely different scale and something that I can't see being taught to them whatsoever.
Our verdict? This is still an animal anomaly. These 3 Vizslas really did freeze in place for 4 minutes. And if Meg and Jeff truly didn't train them to do this, How they stop time is still a doggone mystery.
October 2018. Jason Asselin is giving friends a tour along the shores of Lake Superior near Marquette, Michigan.
As we're walking along the lakeshore, I heard somebody gasp, and I looked over and I saw them pointing out into the water and said, "What is that out there?"
Jason pulls out his camera and starts recording. There's what appears to be a tall and large object on the horizon, so let's take a closer look. The object is gray in color, but the shape appears pretty blurry. Jason and his friends think it might be a ship.
This ship would have had to have been hundreds of feet into the air. We never thought that it was a ghost ship at the time, but when I got home and watched the video, that's all I could think of. We just saw a ghost ship.
Since the late 1800s, there have been hundreds and hundreds of shipwrecks that have occurred on Lake Superior. It's definitely a dangerous patch of water that is essential for trade, but very risky to travel on.
From the SS Western Reserve in 1892 to the Hudson in 1901, many large freighters have sunk in bad weather, only to be seen again, allegedly plying the waters long after a tragic wreck.
According to local legend, one of the most famous ships to have gone down is the SS Bannockburn. Locals call it the Flying Dutchman of Lake Superior, and people still claim to see it to this day.
That's a reference to the legendary Flying Dutchman, the doomed 17th century ship that's been sighted and spoken of for centuries. Jason can't help but wonder if this is the mysterious phenomenon he's captured on camera.
We just witnessed something out of this world.
There's a poem about the world's most famous phantom ship with the line, "They who see the Flying Dutchman never, never reach the shore. But when it comes to getting answers, never say never." Here's what we found.
First, science writer and forensic video analyst Mick West focuses on the shape of the object in Jason's video. He notes that most famous shipwrecks in Lake Superior are freighters with steam engines. This looks different.
It looks like a sail ship. I don't know whether they have big sail ships on the Great Lakes, but that's what it looks like, and if that's unexpected, then that's a clue that it's not actually a ship.
Next, the team considers another possibility. Physicist Dr. Michio Kaku says it might be a mirage.
A mirage is caused by temperature inversion, and dense air bends light more than hot air.
A temperature inversion can make images below the horizon visible, distorted in the distance. So could the weather be causing this effect? Atmospheric scientist Dr. Deanna Hintz looked at the data the day the sighting happened and sees just such an inversion.
The temperature is decreasing and it's actually getting closer to zero. So this is that temperature inversion that can lead to that warm air sitting on top of cold air. This can actually really change how light can propagate through the atmosphere.
Then Mick West tries to put the pieces together. Could a temperature inversion have distorted something that is already there? Turns out, there's a small island 12 miles offshore in this area that's normally hard to see.
Up above, we have a view of the island. So this is the direction we're looking from. So I just simply lined up the lighthouse here in the top with the lighthouse down here. So that lines up perfectly.
So what is that thing? The key for us was the temperature data and that island. Our verdict, mirage. A temperature inversion caused an island that's usually a bump on the horizon to look like a phantom ship.
It's January 17th, 2020 in Fargo, North Dakota. Winter has really set in with packed snow and ice on the ground and temperatures dipping to 1 degree overnight. After looking at an office space to rent, accountant and mother of 6, Nicole Hepner, returns to her car and records something very strange.
It was very icy, and it was so windy that I could hardly even walk on the sidewalk because it was almost blowing my feet out from underneath of me. And I noticed that there was a light pole in the parking lot that was just wiggling, and it was rattling really loudly. Everyone thought it was really unique and crazy and special. It just made you think that we can all feel the cold. It affects things that even aren't alive, like our cars and the buildings.
And here's what makes this a mystery. We can see that the wind was blowing. Look at that bush. But strangely, there's an identical pole in the background that doesn't seem to move at all.
Animism is a religious belief that objects and plants have souls. And while there is no way to test whether that's true or not, we can try to see if there's a scientific explanation for what we're seeing here, no matter how uncanny it may be. So let's have our experts weigh in.
Could the cold have caused this? Atmospheric scientist Dr. Deanna Hens has pulled up the weather data from that day when temperatures were well below the freezing mark.
Typically speaking, these kind of poles easily withstand cold temperatures. We see these kind of light poles all over the country, and they're built to withstand a wide range of conditions.
That takes us to the wind. Could it be to blame?
Given that hint that the wind was affecting the bush within the video screen, I just wanted to check and see the wind speeds. It turns out that they were going at a pretty healthy clip, anywhere from roughly about 30 to closer to 40 miles per hour.
In fact, Hens says a blizzard was blowing through the region that weekend, at times causing whiteout conditions. But physicist Dr. Hakeem Olushehi says it's not only the speed of the wind that matters, but its direction and frequency.
Any gust of wind is not going to cause a light pole to shake in this way. What we're looking at potentially is resonant phenomena, and so what matters is the frequency of the wind.
Everything solid has a natural frequency of vibration. Well, you don't have to hit an object with a hammer, you can hit it with the wind. The wind makes vibrations in this lamppost, and these vibrations are magnified if they resonate with the length of the lamppost.
So when the vibration of the wind hitting the light post has the same frequency as the natural frequency of the post, it amplifies the vibration, causing this resonance effect. Physicist Dr. Michio Kaku says if the resonance were to get strong enough, the light pole might actually collapse.
That's what happened in 1940 in Washington. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge collapsed as a consequence of wind. Wind passing over the bridge, causing the entire bridge to oscillate like a snake.
This is a phenomenon known as aeroelastic flutter, which occurs when the energy from the wind is rapidly absorbed by the structure and converted into mechanical vibrations.
So, our verdict. It was certainly cold enough in North Dakota to make people shiver, but the light post is vibrating so violently because the wind gusts are causing resonance.
And the adjacent light post isn't moving because the wind is hitting it at a different frequency. Perhaps because the vibrating post is in a tight wind tunnel.
It's May 2020, and when Alexa Walkovitz learned her mother's dog, Lala, was lost, she and her friend Anna did something you might find hard to believe.
We look in our home, we pick the settings, and we just think really, really long and hard about Lala. Let's visualize in our mind us finding her.
What? Well, believe it or not, it's all about an app called Randonautica. Alexa and her friend set an intention and thought of her mother's dog. The Randonautica app, which claims to direct people to a real-world encounter with those intentions, then displayed random GPS coordinates near her home in the Mojave Desert.
We're walking forward, and Anna turns to me and kind of like says, "What's that?" There was a little animal.
Where did you come from?
And I realized it was a dog.
I didn't even see it.
Take another look. Out of nowhere, this dog appears in the desert. Now, it turned out this dog wasn't her mother's. It had escaped from a nearby property. And although Alexa never found Lala, she is convinced the app taps into the power of the mind.
It was kind of a healing adventure because maybe that was my dog speaking through that dog and was trying to say to you, like, listen, it's okay. Here I am to comfort you for a moment.
Experiences like Alexa's made Randonautica the craze of 2020. In just 3 months, the app drew over 15 million downloads, with thousands of posts on social media of people declaring their intentions.
The intention for my Randonaut journey is purple.
Heading to random locations.
Is that a purple house?
And finding their wishes at least partially fulfilled. Like thinking of purple and then having the app lead to this backyard.
This is kind of blowing my mind right now.
So does the world of the mind connect with the physical world? Can Randonautica really manifest our intentions? We asked our friendly physicist to come up with an experiment to test it. Dr. Hakeem Oluseyi and Dr. Michio Kaku give us our guidelines.
In order to test this idea to see if it works, you have to do a lot of tests to remove the statistical uncertainties, and you have to keep very careful records of when you're right and when you're wrong.
There it is. Second, when it comes to a goal, make it specific and not metaphorical.
My intention was adventure and cool stuff, and this is so cool.
Not something that looks pretty.
Wow.
No, cash. That, to me, would be a very convincing experiment.
So that's just what we did, asking our test subject to declare cash as her intention.
$100. $100.
The app generates random GPS coordinates. Now let's see where we're going.
Part of a hairbrush.
So far, no cash.
All right, my intention, $100. $100. Found a weird buckle thing.
Our subject keeps repeating the experiment.
My intention, $100.
Then, at one location, no dollar bills, but
Found some batteries. So we didn't find any money at this location, but there is a bank really close to here. So you never know, maybe that's what drew me here.
like many Randonautica stories, the exact intention didn't manifest, but something kind of related. So what's happening here? Kaku believes the explanation is something called the synchronicity effect, a phenomenon where people interpret two coincidental events as intertwined.
Wow. Synchronicity, for example, is you're thinking about Joe, and Joe calls you on the telephone. And you say to yourself, aha, I knew it, I'm psychic.
This is kind of blowing my mind right now.
But Kaku explains, while everyone remembers the occasional hits,
most of the time they're misses. You forget about them. But think of all the times when you thought about Jane and Harry, and they didn't call you.
Our verdict? Most likely coincidence, which comes from people making very general wishes like something that will make me happy. But there is a lot we still don't know about this universe. But that's what we think. What do you think?
The space race is certainly heating up. And it isn't about which billionaire can reach orbit first. Instead, it's about China's efforts to leapfrog its rivals. One spectacle in the skies over China put on such a light show, it left many wondering what they'd just seen. October 2018, Hohhot, the industrial capital of Inner Mongolia. The city of 2.8 million is going about its business when this tears across the sky. A large, bright object corkscrews overhead, leaving a breathtaking trail. Startled citizens all over the city begin filming. It looks like some sort of vapor swirling in the sky. And at one point, right here, it looks like a beam shining down on the city.
This thing, whatever it was extremely strange looking. So you kind of can't blame people for looking up and thinking, it's an alien spaceship.
Of course, a rocket launch is the obvious explanation. But hang on, rocket launches don't usually happen over large, densely populated areas. Their contrails aren't typically illuminated like this one. And importantly, they usually have linear flight trajectories, not this weird corkscrewing path.
It doesn't seem to be going anywhere specific. It seems to kind of be meandering throughout the sky.
That raises another theory. Might this be the debut of a breakthrough military technology?
One explanation that has been posited is that they come from the Dongfang Aerospace City, where they are creating new types of technology, space-age technology, and that they are the result of an effort to give China a leg up in the space race.
There's a lot of mystery surrounding this particular area, and no one has come forward to claim responsibility, so we don't actually know what happened here.
The Chinese military keeps a tight lid on what's happening at Dongfang. Foreigners are rarely allowed to visit. But we do know the Chinese admitted to using a missile to destroy one of their own satellites back in 2007. So is this video proof of some new advanced space weapon? Is it a craft from out of this world? Or something else entirely?
Astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio first considers that this might be a comet.
Oh, this is cool. We talk about comets in the night sky all the time. And comets do move across the sky.
But known comets are astronomical objects millions of miles away.
They take days, if not weeks, to move across the sky. This is moving across the sky in a matter of seconds. So, is it a comet that's very close to the Earth? If it was that close to the Earth, it would probably envelop the entire Earth. This glow would be everywhere.
So we can rule out that theory. As for a UFO, in general, one of their defining characteristics is an unknown means of propulsion, like the famous Tic Tac video from 2004.
In a lot of the truly unexplained UFO videos that we see, we don't see the characteristics that you have in this video. Namely, all of this exhaust trail that you're seeing here.
That massive exhaust trail brings us back to the rocket theory, but there's some explaining to do. First, that illumination. How can it be a rocket if it doesn't look like night launches in the US? McMillan has a theory based on the time of day.
These videos were filmed roughly an hour after sunset. And so what you're seeing is the rocket itself is above and high enough altitude with the curvature of the Earth that the sun is actually still reflecting light off of the exhaust trail.
Okay, but what about that bizarre corkscrewed flight path?
So whatever the object is, you can see it's changing trajectory. Could this be some type of classified or experimental rocket testing? Possibly we're looking at some kind of GPS, laser-guided, some type of rocket system that is targeting something, potentially moving. You can see these patterns in something like Israel's Iron Dome system, which is designed to seek out rockets as an air defense measure. That's also on the table.
But hang on. McMillan says the fact that this happened over a highly populated area opens up another, less impressive possibility.
So it certainly appears that we have something that has gone awry, and it's not traveling the path that it was intended. The idea that it could be a failed rocket system is certainly plausible.
Our verdict here? This was a Chinese rocket, but what it was and whether this video captured a failed launch or a success, we can't say. If the Chinese launched at night to keep it secret, well, we can safely say that didn't work. One thing is certain, the new space race is underway, and the Chinese government is building its own space station. So we are sure to hear more about their ambitions in the coming years.
It's December 2011 in Pyongyang, North Korea. Supreme Leader Kim Jong-il has just died at the age of 70, and the whole country has fallen into a period of ritual mourning. During a 3-hour funeral procession through the capital, throngs of civilians and North Korean soldiers stand in rows, dozens deep, to watch Kim's casket pass by. But after the Associated Press releases an overhead shot of the crowd, some eagle-eyed viewers notice something seems amiss.
There's a man in an army uniform who seems to literally be twice as tall as everyone else.
As we zoom in closer, it appears this soldier is about 8 feet tall. And what makes this soldier even more remarkable is that in North Korea, where famine is frequent, men are not known for their height.
North Korean soldiers are somewhat shorter than average than South Korean soldiers, and it's probably because of poor nutrition that they have.
Kim Jong-il himself often wore platform shoes to compensate for his short stature.
The average male height is around 5 feet 4 inches, or even shorter than that.
Bear in mind also that the North Korean government is notorious for photoshopping images for propaganda purposes. Check out these soldiers at a sunset ceremony. Who needs shadows? Or this image of a thriving farm. Note the cloned sheep. And look at this impressive North Korean bakery. Plenty to eat here. And the workers can even stack the loaves in identical piles.
North Koreans are world-renowned for their propaganda and their hyperbole and their exaggeration. So it wouldn't be at all surprising if they tried to slip something in, like we have incredibly tall soldiers.
Another theory? The photo is real, and the regime is actually engineering super soldiers in a secret lab.
A lot of people speculated that maybe there was some kind of experimentation that was happening that would have created a super soldier. In 2020, a report came out that stated that China was actually using CRISPR technology to genetically modify its own soldiers, to turn them into, essentially, super soldiers. A person without regret, without pain, without compassion, without fear.
CRISPR technology is like a set of molecular scissors that researchers can use to cut and alter DNA sequences.
Some have speculated that maybe because North Korea is China's neighbor and their allies, North Korea is using it secretly as well.
The Korean People's Army is the second largest military organization in the world. Enlistment is compulsory, and a whopping 30% of the country's population is serving in some capacity. We all know they have nukes, but could this really be the country's new secret weapon?
First, let's handle the fake or real question.
I think the first thing that leaps to mind is this is just an editing glitch. They've duplicated soldiers, and then when they copied one, they accidentally made it a bit too big.
But let's think about this for a second. It seems off that North Korea would have to duplicate images of soldiers. Unlike loaves of bread, they've got infantrymen in abundance. And when West examines the tall man's uniform, he spots revealing details.
Compare it to the others, and you see that the uniform is actually a bit different. It's got this kind of longer coat that comes down further down on his legs. And it doesn't really seem like it's a small person that's been magnified into a large person. It seems like what we actually have here is actually a very large soldier.
So if this is a real person, could he truly be a super soldier? Military expert Tim McMillan says that might not make much sense, since extreme height could be a disadvantage in the field.
For one, if you're going to be used in a ground combat situation, you're a much better target than your contemporaries who are shorter than you and lower to the ground.
People say the ideal range of heights for a soldier is around 6'2", and there's very practical reasons for that. You can't fit into troop transports if you're 8 feet tall.
So if this isn't a super soldier, who could be that naturally tall? West concludes there's one man it could possibly be.
It's almost certainly the North Korean basketball player, Rim Yong-hoon. It matches him very well. His general shape, his shoulders, the shape of his head, and just the way he stands.
But why is a basketball player in military garb? Well, after the U.S. State Department initially denied the 7-foot, 8-inch tall basketball star's request to play in the NBA, North Korea honored Ri with a position in the military.
The verdict? This is most likely North Korea's tallest man, Ri Myung-hoon. As to why he's so tall when North Koreans are shorter on average, well, that remains a mystery. It's possible Ri has gigantism, which is generally caused when the pituitary gland releases excess growth hormone in childhood.
It's May 2017 in Indonesia's Maluku province. Locals are heading out to work when they make a gigantic, gruesome discovery floating in the water. Cell phone video shows them examining the rotting corpse of a 50-foot dead sea creature that has somehow washed ashore. Here's a look from another angle. The formless blob is not only immense, it looks like it's coated in some sort of white, shaggy hair. What kind of animal has hair like that?
It seems like it's something that shouldn't exist. And in fact, if this animal were terrestrial, it wouldn't be able to exist because of its sheer body mass.
Folklore is chock full of legendary sea creatures as big as this carcass. The ancient Hebrew Leviathan, the Jormungandr of Norse mythology, and the Kraken, a kind of giant octopus, so big it was described as a floating island in Viking eyewitness accounts.
Oh man, I bet that stinks there.
But field researcher Cliff Barrickman says these carcasses have their own name.
Globsters. Globsters are cool in every way. It's part blob, it's part glob, it's part lobster. I mean, how awesome is that?
Globsters have been turning up on shores around the globe for years. This one, known as the Cherbourg carcass, was discovered in France in 1934. But what to make of this one?
Globsters have also washed up on beaches in Florida, New Zealand, Bermuda, Canada, and South Africa, but they've never been spotted in the water alive. So what exactly are we looking at here? Let's turn to our analysts.
Wildlife biologist Lucy Eckersley first focuses on that amorphous mass of tissue.
I think these could be mistaken for lots of different sea animals, and because they look kind of squishy, you might think that they look like a giant octopus or a giant squid.
A giant squid? But look.
We can see some exposed bone.
This video clearly shows this creature has a spine, so it can't be an invertebrate. Next question, what to make of that hair?
What looks like hair across this creature is actually fibers of collagen.
Marine biologist Dr. Shay Conger says that collagen, a protein that provides structure to skin, bones, and tendons, is the biggest clue.
When components of the body begin to break down, the collagen begins to emerge. And because collagen doesn't break down as quickly as other tissues, these globsters can start to take on a hairy appearance that you wouldn't expect or be able to explain if you weren't familiar.
So what was this before the sea decomposed it into a globster?
This is actually pretty typical of what I would expect to see in regards to the carcass of a large whale. You can see some striations on the bottom of this object, and that is what we would expect to see in the mouth cavity of a large whale, such as a blue whale.
And Conger should know. As you can see, she's been up close and personal with globsters herself.
To witness firsthand one of these animals at close distance, to the human mind, is almost unsurmountable. You're looking at the scale of an animal that's bigger than anything that's ever lived on the planet. And so to unpracticed eyes, they seem absolutely impossible.
Ultimately, this story is about the power of the sea. In this case, its power to transform the bodies of dead animals into something unrecognizable. And once that hair was explained to us, it became clear. Our verdict, the globster is not the kraken or a sea monster. It's a dead whale.
It's September of 2018, and residents of Southeast Asia are bracing for a megastorm, a super typhoon. Winds up to 180 miles per hour blast through the region as social media is flooded with images of the damage. One video, said to be from the Shenzhen province of China, is particularly alarming. Watch as this commercial airliner attempts to land as it fights extremely heavy crosswinds. It seems to almost tip over, then it does a complete flip. But just as it seems like it may crash, the pilot appears to regain control. The footage quickly goes viral as it triggers many people's worst fears of flying. But watch again. A number of things seem off about this footage, not least of which are the supposed typhoon conditions.
Certainly the winds are strong, but it doesn't look like there's any rain or even a ton of cloud cover.
Planes land in tough crosswinds all the time. What you're seeing here are all verified incidents.
The most dangerous part of flying a plane is takeoff and landing. That's when you're going to encounter things like crosswinds or wind shears that can really affect how you come in or how you take off. But I've never seen a passenger plane do a full barrel roll like this.
Wow. I don't know about you, but I could watch this video over and over again. It's that wild. But many people online thought it was real. So we decided to track down the original source of this footage to get the real story.
The creator of this clip is Minnie Sirbis, a filmmaker in Los Angeles.
So this video was 100% CGI, a CG plane, fence, sky, everything.
But here's the thing. Minnie never claimed the video was real. That was someone else.
Somebody stole my footage. When the video went viral, it wasn't through my YouTube channel. It was through somebody else's Facebook post. And I only learned about it after it got millions of views.
So clearly, many people were duped. But still, could an airliner flip like this in real life?
Commercial planes, they're not designed to do barrel rolls and things that you might see from military jets. As the plane goes through these rolls, it appears to successfully recover off camera. That really wouldn't be consistent with what we would see in a commercial plane. You're going to lose any propulsion that you have at this point because you have a catastrophic shift in this plane that is designed not to do this.
Just to be certain, we asked physicist Hakeem Oluseyi if any kind of weather system could cause a plane to flip, like in this video.
A plane maintains its lift via the headwind, right? It's the relative speed of the plane going into the wind. And if there is a crosswind, then that will be perpendicular to the headwind. So it would act independently. So it could shift the plane side to side independently of the forward back motion. But now there's also a twist. There's also a rotational motion, which is also independent. So that's why the ideal wind to create something like this is a fast headwind with a tornado going around it in this way.
That kind of wind would leave a trail of destruction. But look, in the video, the fence and tower are intact and undisturbed.
So, our verdict? There's no question. This is a hoax. Minnie told us he still has no idea who passed off his CGI project as real or why. But you can be sure that when we see stuff like this, we'll be sure to call it out.